electricity is thing we take for granted in most of the world.
Hello, Branko, and thank you for joining Dukaskobi TV today. It's a pleasure to speak to you. We're going to look into a bit more about what you do, and in particular talking about sustainable energy, renewable energy. What is it, and what is it exactly that you do, and what are some sort of misconceptions that come up when people talk about renewable energy? They just think about, wind energy and solar energy, but is there more to it than that?
Yeah, thank you, Jack. Thank you for having me in the first place. Well, I work for the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, which is based here in Geneva for the Sustainable Energy Division. And I'm responsible for two programs, one on natural gas and the other on electricity or cleaner electricity from fossil fuels. So, sustainable energy concept is something that stems from the notion of sustainable development, which means that we need energy that is environmentally, socially, and economically viable in the long run to support development of not only this generation, but also the future generation. There is some sort of need to sustain the progress at the pace we do today. So energy is a driver of most of the things we do. In this sense, sustainable energy is needed to help us get in the future that we want to be. Well, for most people, as you rightly said, there is some sort of understanding that sustainable energy mostly deals with some good things such as good lighting, efficient lighting, energy efficiency, or renewable energy sources such as solar panels or wind turbines and so on. But there is actually more to it. I think dealing with the whole aspect of energy is a bit more tricky and more difficult to understand because we need to understand the concept of the so-called total primary energy supply to actually see what we need to do.
So I heard you mention economically in there, and usually when we're talking about sustainable and renewable energy, you don't hear the financial argument for it. Is it possible to invest in sustainable energy?
Well, certainly. I mean, you can invest in many fields of sustainable energy, meaning in renewable energy and increasing efficiency, but equally important, you can invest in what we call the all classic fossil fuels, meaning oil and gas, coal, electricity production from those sources. That would probably be one of the biggest investments, or for matter of fact, you need also to improve the quality of electricity service lines, power quality, which is something that requires investment. Electricity is thing we take for granted in most of the world.
And just finally then, going forward, you mentioned this investment and you mentioned coal and gas electric as well. What are some plans going forward? Are you in a positive mindset? Do you think we're going in the right direction?
Well, as a world global, as I earlier said, the total primary energy supply refers to the energy we use, the supply that we have available for any use, being it electricity or transportation or heating, cooling, or anything. So the trouble is that 80% of the energy we use in the world comes from fossil fuels. We've changed our lifestyle. So in many countries, when we've introduced renewable energy or increased significantly energy efficiency, nevertheless, many people travel around. So taking airplanes means spending a lot of jet fuel. So even if your energy consumption at your home decreases, your overall consumption increases because of changing living patterns. You just told me you're going to Florida, right? So it's going to, there'll be amount of carbon dioxide produced and jet fuel burned to get you there. So all that requires, as I mentioned, a lot of fossil fuels. So what's really important is, and that's a part of sustainable energy, is how responsibly we manage those fossil fuels. What we do to use less of them, what we do to produce less carbon dioxide by using those fossil fuels that we use anyhow, that's the question. One of the things here is, for example, carbon capture and storage. So when we burn fossil fuels, be it natural gas or oil or coal, carbon dioxide is produced. Now, Ideally, we should not emit it in the air. We should find a way to store it away someplace, to capture first and then store it. And these technologies also require huge investment. So to be zero emission, to be carbon neutral, a huge investment is needed. And that is actually an opportunity for many investors to get into this field and understand how things function.
Branko, thank you so much for speaking with us. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Most welcome.
And thank you for watching. And if you liked this interview and would like to find out more, be sure to head over to dukascopy.tv.